Today's podcast episode is going to be on duck migration. We're just going to talk about a few things here and there about the things that cause it, that trigger it, and what it kind of looks like in them for this time of season. So, just like a brief rundown of what we're looking at and things that are going to be triggering it are going to be so first the arrival of fall and the cooler temperatures. um, Obviously, like up north, this kind of triggers it to be a little bit faster. We see this migration down here happen mostly in September, and then with duck season starting in November, the last weekend of November, it gives them a lot of time to come down from further down north. So we're the arrival of fall, cooler temps. Most of the time, people think about um, you know nicer weather, the holidays, getting away from that blaring heat. I mean, the leaves changing colors, the leaves falling. Just a time of year that I am more of a fan of around this time. So, just like a brief rundown, also is that these animals, these waterfowl species, any species, it doesn't really matter. They all kind of react the same to different things, but this is a journey that goes upwards of 2,000 miles. This is something that they make a long trek. There was a study on one of my academic sources that talked about um, how they can come down all the way from Canada. I mean, of ducks in the UP come down to the Atlantic Flyway. Just stuff like that. There was even a pair of ducks that they tracked for whatever reason. They came down, they landed in Colorado and California, and then they went back up. When I say back up, they went back to Russia. So they went all through Canada and they traveled back down to California for whatever reason. But they made their trip from Russia to California to Russia, and then back. So that was pretty interesting. Well over 2,000 miles. So some of the things, other than lowering temps, we're looking at snowfall. That has a big impact on their migration, along with suitable flying weather. That's a big thing for them that a lot of people kind of look past. And then more what people look past are the suitable habitats that they need to survive. So we're gonna dive into this. As far as the temperatures, temperatures that get close to or begin lowering past the freezing point, that's something that can trigger it. Most of the time, most ducks, they don't wait for snow to fall to begin their migration, so that's not something that's really needed. But the arrival of snowfall will trigger that migration regardless of the temp. So it could be snowing and 40 degrees, somewhere else. And they're gonna be moving. They use these things as an early warning sign, I guess you could say. So an early warning sign. So most of the time they go off of temperatures throughout the United States, about 5 degrees Celsius. I can't remember exactly what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's pretty cold. It's not. I don't believe it's at the freezing point at 32 or anything, but it's pretty close. Also, like this is also something that will affect the snow, and the lowering temps will have an effect on their thermoregulation. If you don't really know what that is, that's just the use of their metabolism to keep their body at a constant temperature. Just like how we do. So basically the same thing. Also, it also has an effect on their energy budget considerations. When it gets to to a certain cold point, and their bodies are trying to keep up with this temperature, they're going to be looking to fly instead of continuing to stick around where they are. And searching for food, and they're just going to decide to fly away and just try to find something a little bit better, a little bit warmer for them. So this happens in the Pacific flyways, Mississippi flyways, the Central and the Atlantic flyways. I'm sure you can kind of dictate where all of those are. We in New Mexico here, we're located in the Central flyway. The Mississippi's to the east of us, and then obviously the Mississippi's to the east of us, and then the Pacific's to the west, and obviously the Atlantic, you keep going farther east and you'll hit that. So just something else, just something to think about. So snow, snow is going to be a big influence on their diet and in terms of what's available to eat for them. um, Most of the time where they're at, it's going to cover the agricultural lands and then the water sites that they typically feed, and those sites that produce grains, grasses, aquatic plants, and invertebrates. Just things that are components of their diet. And obviously it's going to freeze um, open water sources, places where they like to roost and where they like to sit and rest and just kind of mingle around. That's kind of like their home. So um, along with snow, different snow depths um, will cause different species to migrate and react differently. Mallards, upon immediate snowfall, mallards are going to be could be a mallard drake, mallard hen. Obviously, the drake is going to be the male, the hen is going to be the female. And upon like first arrival of snow, regardless of temperature, they're out. They're in and out. They're not going to wait around to. They're not going to wait around to see what else is coming. Other species are more tolerable to the snow. I can't exactly tell you what species off the top of my head, but we're looking at gadwalls, pintails, wood ducks, um, those other species of ducks. Um, Sorry, with all the dogs barking, something's making them go all crazy. But yeah, those other species are looking at like 7 centimeters of snow depth, and then they're out. Then they'll be out. What they're looking at. So obviously with with the current temps and the wind speed caused by snow, they're gonna this is gonna have an effect on their stopover sites. So places that they like to rest and stop over. So it's kind of weird, and I don't know the science behind it, but with the wind, they like to have certain wind in order to land. If it's too violent, they're not gonna land, and they're gonna continue to go until they can find some suitable wind to help them glide down into what they're kind of looking for. So yeah, and then along with the snowfall and the temperatures and whatnot, they don't have sweat glands like us. When our body gets warm, or yeah, when our body gets warm, they don't have the sweat glands in order to sweat it out or whatever they have. They lose their heat by their mouths, and it's something that they do called gular fluttering. It's just kind of like when they open their mouth and then they're fluttering all their neck muscles. That's where their primary loss of heat comes through. Well, really their only one. So, and these are all just things that are caused by snowfall and and wind temperatures and just things like that. So this is pretty interesting. In this part, we're talking about cloud coverage. On the height of the clouds. These animals, they fly at all times of the day. It's not just like daytime they're flying through, or they fly day and night. But cloud coverage, and I think clouds below the threshold of like 600 meters, do have an effect, and they'll choose not to depart their stopover sites, or they'll immediately come down from where they're flying if the cloud coverage is blocking their visibility, because they mostly rely on the terrestrial navigation and orientation. So that's something they use at night. So we're looking for clear skies, we're looking at suitable flying weather, and just things like that. So obviously with wind speeds too that are caused by cloud coverage and cloud precipitation, this has an effect on tailwinds. Kind of like the same thing, like that wind we just talked about, how they're looking for that suitable flying weather and that wind that they need to be able to land and glide. That way they're not using so much. That way they're not using so much energy to do it. So, and then we talk about a suitable habitat and things that they need. So, production of plant foods. So they like corn, they like barley. Really just anything. I've seen them when I've been cleaning them after a hunt and whatever. We've seen weird stuff. Not really so much here. We look at a lot of stuff from the water or anything like that, but we're looking mostly like at corn. There's a lot of corn down in Hatch, a lot of cornfields, a lot of chili. We've seen some of them eat the chili when we've opened them up. Just things that they're looking for. So obviously they need open water because that's where they like to roost. It also allows them to orient themselves in the water. It may not look like that. It may they look like they're just kind of swimming in a weird direction, not paying attention, but their hearing is somewhat okay. Um, it serves its purpose, but main um, their main sense is going to be their eyesight. They have magnificent eyesight. You know, they can come see you coming from far away, which is why we wear stuff like this when we go duck hunting, or we're setting up, or we're walking up on places. You know, usually I have if we're sitting down and waiting for them, we put out decoys. I put on a face mask. If I don't have a face mask, I have like camouflage paint painted over my face. You know, get the spots that glare, that shine light off of them the most, so that way they don't really see where I'm coming in from. That's mostly for when you're kind of sitting in and setting decoys. When you're jump shooting, you're just looking for spots, and you're getting off and you're walking. You're trying to find openings to look down in the water to see where they're coming in. You know, most of the time you can sneak up on them, and you don't get very much time once you get to that bank of the river. But you know, it's something it's just something we kind of do. So obviously, with them being in the water, they use it to orient themselves, to fix themselves on the sky, to fix themselves on the ground, to look around their overall surroundings. So we're just looking for suitable habitat. Obviously, with freezing water or frozen water, or places they can't land, they can't so much do that. They're not gonna do it. And I've never seen a duck roost or rest in a tree. I've seen them in fields. Most of the time, those fields are like flooded. They have some water that they like to go down to, because most of the time those fields have leftover of something, whether it's corn or wheat, or whatever it might be. So yeah, so it's kind of weird. Obviously, with not only like the terrestrial navigation and orientation, they use their sound, because they fly so close to each other. They use their sound to communicate. And all ducks are a little bit different. Whenever you hear a duck, you think of a quack, and they don't really quack. This call right here really kind of mimics a hen. The mallard hens, the drakes, kind of make this little buzzing sound. Gadwalls, I know they kind of like, it's a little bit of a chirp. And then so are pintails. They kind of chirp a little bit too. Wood ducks, pretty cool. Not really, they're real quiet. I do know that. I just killed a canvasback. If you don't know what a canvasback is, those are ducks that usually are in the Atlantic flyway. They don't come around here, and they're usually, I don't know, they're mostly, a lot of people kill them in Arkansas, so that was pretty cool to get. And they're just a little bit different. They have different colors and whatnot. But yeah, so when you kind of hear them, you hear a quack. When they're feeding, sometimes they'll do it, but not all the time. It's like a little feeding chuckle. They'll be in the water, or they'll be in the field, and it's kind of something like this, just so something along those lines. Is that kind of when they're feeding, when they're up in the air, if you're listening to them, you're gonna hear them, I guess, quack. Not really like a quack, but it's kind of like a I don't really know how to explain it, but it's a sound that can be easily mimicked with these duck calls. This is one of mine. I have more than a dozen of them. It's probably my favorite one. I couldn't even tell you what it really, it's not a quack, but you can mimic it by making, like, you're making a putt sound, and then you use your fingers to open and close the air and make different sounds like that. So I'll show you kind of what it sounds like when they're flying. And it's not just continuously quacking and quacking and quacking. It's real sporadic. It's always different. You can always tell when other hunters are around, or somebody else is kind of call that they don't really know how to call, because something always sounds the same. So when you're trying to get them into land, and you have your decoys in the ground and the water, and you're kind of just waiting for them, you're trying to make sounds that'll mimic the ducks in the water. So it kind of sounds like something like this, or when they're flying. So that's just like something it might sound like. This thing's pretty cool. Just a little known fact. When you swat them out of the air, or when you shoot them out of the air, sometimes they don't always die right on. Uh, as soon as they get shot, I guess there's not a lot of BBs in the shells like these ones that I use. There's not enough of them, or not enough hit them. So sometimes they'll go down, but if they're in the water and you're far enough, we're looking at like 40 yards max. You don't want to shoot anything super close. You just mangle it at that point. But if there's something, I don't know, past 20, and you see it in the water, it's just kind of like sitting there, still alive, you can swat it again, shoot at it again, and it won't do anything too crazy to it. But some of the times, they'll land, and then they'll try to scurry up the bank, and then you got to go in and try to find them in that thick brush, and then they won't fly away. They'll try to run away. Most of the time, you just corner them with somebody else in front of them, and they won't move. You just kind of got to sneak up on behind them and get as close as you can with an arm length, and you just got to grab them. Just another, most people just wring their necks. You can get them by the neck and you just swing them, ring them. I found this a couple of years ago. This is my newest one. We call these the duck finisher, and you just kind of take it. I got this on this real cool lanyard, badge lanyard thing I got right here. So you kind of just grab it by the head, hold it this way with the beak facing that way, and you feel along the head, and you're gonna feel like where their skull ends. So you take this little thing, you stick it behind the head, and then you push in and then up, and then you just kind of turn it like a key, and it kills them pretty quickly. And if it's still fluttering, it's just really just nerves and things like that. But yeah, they're pretty magnificent creatures. So like we've talked about, this is all something that's caused by the colder season, and then when it gets warmer and we're getting towards the end of, I think the last weekend of duck hunting is like the last weekend of January, where it starts to warm up a little bit here and there. I think at the end of February, the beginning of March, they'll begin to migrate back to their spring habitats, where it's a little bit cooler for them, not so much hot here. I don't think I've really ever seen a duck down here in the hotter parts of the year. But this is all caused, this whole migration, and what is caused by the colder season and all the companions that I mentioned that it brings along with it. So temps getting closer below the freezing point, which appears to be the main trigger of all of this. Snowfall, they use that as an early warning sign. You'll never really see a duck where there's a lot of snow. Most of the time, if you do see ducks where it's a lot of snow, that's like their suitable habitat for where they are. There's still water around. It's snow. There is snow on the ground and decent amount of snow, but there's still water that they can land on. Where they come from further up north. You could say even upwards of Canada or Russia. And all these effects, they kind of just domino on them. It's like one right after the other, and then they'll just keep pushing them and pushing them. And they're at these stopover sites, and they could be there within a day or two, maybe even less than a day, and like this next trigger will happen, and it's just going to keep dominoing him, and it's going to force him to get up and push him. And then, like, it's kind of hard to like judge it because they're all different, and no birds are alike. But all these things can prevent them from departing, or stop them right in their tracks and force them to land somewhere where they're not. So, or force them to land somewhere where they're going to have to land for whatever reason. And then the freezing points and the snow and everything covering their food. Obviously up north, if the water's frozen, or if there's no plants that they can feed on up north, they're going to obviously come down here in search of food. They're not going to keep looking. They're not going to keep looking up there for things that aren't going to be there. So obviously, and then just I think it's important as a hunter, we kind of take care. We not kind of take care, but we do take care of the environment, take care of all these things. And hatch, you typically see a lot of trash down there for whatever reason, a lot of beer bottles. I get that people want to go somewhere to drink, or kids want to go somewhere to drink, or even adults, but people just dump stuff out there. But it's just important to take care of the environment, take care of what they feed on, take care of the water, just for their future generations to come. And then obviously for us that like duck hunting, it's just not really a hobby. It's something that we enjoy doing. Nothing goes to waste. We eat everything, and it's pretty awesome. So like right here, I got some, I don't think this is about 2 weeks ago, I got some. I got a few ducks 2 weeks ago, and they're awesome. They really are. I mean, it really depends on how you cook them. This is Achilles, and he loves these. This is like his bag. You know, I cut off the feet for him and whatnot, and he likes to gnaw on these, on their legs and all kinds of other stuff. But he gets his own bag, and they're delicious. You know, you sear them like steaks, and they turn out awesome. There's like Louisiana Cajun dishes you can do, and you know they're great. So let's see. He's had a lot for Thanksgiving and whatnot. So let's see if he eats one. So here's a little duck breast. They don't have they're not a super lot of meat, but they have a good amount, and they're awesome. If you eat about 3 or 4 of them, they're pretty good. So, and then he loves these. I'm watching, give him a little. We like to cut off the feet for him. You know, he doesn't really like eat them all the way. He kind of makes them as a chew toy, and just gnaws on them, gets all the meat off of them, and then see if he takes that one. He already has like 3 over there, so he's gonna take that to his little house. But yeah, anyways, they're delicious, great to eat. But yeah, they smell a little funky after a couple weeks, but still fine, I guess. So it's gonna wrap up for today. Just want to thank you guys for listening to this video. Whoever might see this video, if there's something that I might be wrong on, let me know, and leave a comment or for my class that I'm doing this for. Hopefully you guys found this interesting and not boring, and hopefully you could hear me. I really don't want to retake this. So yeah, thank you for listening.